In this video, I will talk you through 7 key mistakes that some DIYers make which cause their projects to fail. I'm excited about this because I'm distilling it from my experience designing, building commercial buildings, as well as project managing the delivery of complex IT systems. 7 key mistakes we can all learn, share, and avoid these mistakes so that we have successful DIY projects. So let us begin. The first mistake a DIY person can commit is not to have a design thinking mindset. Design thinking is a global problem solving methodology. It comprises 5 elements. The first element is to empathize with your users on their perspective of the problem. In other words, put yourself in the shoes of the users. Understand how they feel. Once you've gathered input from your users, and you could be one of the users, your family could be one of the users, your friends could be one of the users. Once you've understood the perspective of the users, then you define an agreed set of key problems. From there, you ideate. In other words, you brainstorm possible candidate solutions. Then you move on to develop one or more small-scale prototypes. And finally, you test the prototypes and select the best solution. Here is a picture of what the 5 steps in design thinking looks like. You start with empathize, move to define, then you ideate possible solutions, you prototype the possible solutions, and you test the solutions. Now these 5 steps are not linear. In other words, they can have loopbacks, so that after going to say a prototype, you may realize that the prototype's not practical, and you go back to ideate, to think and brainstorm alternative solution in order to build another prototype. Or after testing, you realize that there are other facets of the problem set that you have not identified, and you need to include that into the definition of the problem. So it's a very flexible methodology. What you want to avoid is typically we jump from a problem straight into a solution mode without actually trying to understand the problem carefully. Are there facets that were missing? Are there people we should be talking to? Are there some elements of the problem that are more important than others? Is there a priority list? Failure to carry out design thinking to first understand what the real problem issues are and then designing solutions accordingly can just lead to activity which just leads to inadequate, inappropriate, unsuitable solutions, and this is something we must avoid. The next key element that is missing in failed projects is a lack of a vision for what the finished product or system, what it should look like, how it should operate, how it should be used, and in addition, to design a system that is easy and cost effective to build, it is easy to operate, and it's easy and cost effective to maintain. I have seen buildings where architects have designed fanciful facades which comprise of glass completely, where every piece of glass is a different shape and a different angle. So the cost to design and build such a system is very expensive. Furthermore, the cost to maintain such a system is equally expensive. So when you and I think about a finished product, our vision for it must not just include how easy it is to build, but must include the whole life cycle of the product. How easy is it to operate? How easy is it to service and maintain? Then we had the vision for a whole life cycle of a product, and that is the best product to have. In this example, you see 2 photographs. The picture on the left is a photograph of my outdoor stair and landing. It is over 20 years old. It is made completely out of treated pine. Now you can see there's no pickets on the side because it's all rotten. The nails have rusted and it's broken off. It was unsafe to have the nails sticking out, so I've smashed out the pickets. You see that it's a bottom step missing here. Because the supports had rotted out, and this second step here is unstable because the support here has rotted out. And the treated pine floorboards here, they are warped and they are loose as well. Many of the nail fixings used on the stair landing have rusted badly, so they were definitely not galvanized. Also note that the treated pine posts are embedded into the concrete, into the ground, and they are rotted through. When I removed them, they were completely rotten through. So the structural frame of the stair landing itself has been compromised. Before I demolished this, I had a vision of what I wanted the new stair landing to look like, the one that I was gonna build. And this is what it is now, and this is what I envisioned. So what were some key aspects of the old stair landing I wanted to avoid? I want to minimize the use of treated pine. I want to maximize the use of galvanized nails. I also wanted to avoid embedding a timber post into the ground because that will rot. So my vision for the solution is to use cypress pine post because it is naturally termite and weather resistant, and to use Merbau timber floorboards because that is also naturally termite and rot resistant, and I only use treated pine timber where there's no substitute timber I could use. So I used it on the side rails, on the steps, on the joists, and on the side rails up here. The pickets are also cypress pine. You'll also note that it's galvanized anchor posts which I've concreted into the ground. The supports for the steps are lifted off the ground with plastic window shims. So this replacement stair landing that I've built will last much longer than the original treated pine stair landing. A third mistake some DIYers make, which cause their projects to fail, is they lack knowledge and experience. This with respect to how to design, what materials to use, development process, how to test different stages or components, how to carry out proper system integration, how to construct and implement the project. I've used different words here to mean just about the same thing, and the reason is I've used these words because some of these terminology is more relevant to the building industry or to the IT software development integration industry or to electronic development industry or to simple DIY building projects. And the problem is this: lack of knowledge arises owing to inexperience. And to add to the inexperience, the DIYer may not know how to conduct research in order to beef up that knowledge. The fourth mistake that a DIY can make is in relationship to the scope of works. I've always said that clarity is king, and in defining any project, you must have a scope of works, whether it's written down or in your head on a piece of envelope. You must be able to gather, collate, refine, document, have in your mind what are the functional and technical requirements. If you don't collect them, if they're not clear or they're not defined, that doesn't help the project. So if there's no scope of works developed, that's not good. A scope of works must have proper defined stages of work. So for instance, when I planned the replacement of the stair landing, there were 3 phases I planned out. The first was to demolish the old, the second was to build the structural frame, and the third was to finish up by adding the pickets, the floorboards, the steps. So in your mind, you must plan out the stages of work, and for each stage of work, you must have in your mind what are the project deliverables, what do you expect to achieve at the end and during each of the stages of work, and milestones. So how long do you think you'll take to achieve each of the deliverables? If the scope of works is overly ambitious, then the project is going to experience time and cost overrun and frustration, and there will end up having to be some variation in order to reduce the scope so that it can be more achievable. The fifth mistake that a DIY can make is failing to exercise project planning discipline. So the first area of this is with regard to underestimating resources. don't realize that you need more people. For instance, there may be parts of the project where one has to carry heavy, bulky items. It's not a one-person job. There may be specialist skills for some tasks. For instance, there's regulation about gas plumbing and AC electricals. Or the DIY did not use correct tools and materials. For instance, mistakenly using indoor paint or timber for outdoor purposes. Or using undersized DC electrical cables, or using the wrong type of fasteners. For instance, using zinc plated fasteners on treated pine timber. They will corrode. A second part of project planning that can be inadequate is cost underestimated. This may be because there wasn't proper quantity surveying skills. For instance, if you have a floor area of decking to cover and each length of deck needs so many quantity of stainless steel deck screws, then you have to do the calculations. So maybe more materials are needed, or perhaps different types of material which are more expensive may be needed. For instance, galvanized steel bolts or screws instead of zinc plated, 316 stainless steel screws, or you need thicker gauge electrical cables because of the higher current draw, or because of the longer distance the cables have to run. One may also need to hire or buy more specialized tools. For instance, one may need to hire a plate compactor in order to compact sand and gravel before concrete pavers are put in. One may need to hire a floor sander, or when crimping steel cables, one may need to hire a hydraulic swaging tool. The third element of project planning which can be underestimated is time. Some tasks take longer, for instance the time to apply multiple coats of paint, or the time for concrete to cure before holes can be drilled, or because one realizes that one needs different types of material and tools, one ends up making multiple trips to the hardware store. This all takes time and cost. A fourth element in project planning that DIY may not understand is project dependency for task. The person may not understand until it's too late that task B actually has to precede task A, and the result of this is that expensive, time-consuming rework has to be done. And sometimes key tasks may have been left out, whether deliberately or not. This results in a solution that may be suboptimal or even unsafe. So for instance, not applying waterproof bitumen paint on the bottom of in-ground timber posts, or not applying rubber grommets in holes drilled through metal enclosures before inserting electrical wires will cause the wires to be cut, and then one will face a short circuit. Mistake number 6 involves spiral development. Some DIYers have no concept of this. Spiral development simply means you start something small, simple before you proceed to bigger scale complexity. So the mistake is not to do pilot testing, not to test and gain experience with new tools, materials and techniques before using on actual product or systems, and not to have done component testing but simply proceeding to large scale production or system integration. Mistake number 7 is giving up too easily. A DIYer needs to have a problem solving and resilient mindset. It is too easy to give up when we encounter difficulties at different stages of the project. But what we need to do is keep in mind the design thinking mindset and keep using that design thinking mindset to overcome the problem, the new challenge, the new difficulty as they crop up. Finally, when we put the two together, design thinking is essentially a mindset that we apply to our project implementation discipline. With design thinking, we create a vision, we have a solution where we've carved out the scope of works, we understand what needs to be done, and therefore we understand all the resourcing, the time, the cost elements and dependencies, and that allows us to do project planning. Then we carry out the project in a spiral development process so that we start small and end up big. And at any stage of this project implementation, if we have new difficulties and challenges, or there's a better way to do things, then design thinking mindset as an overlay helps us make real-time challenges to the solution in order to achieve project delivery, project success. So I hope this video has distilled for you key elements to help you be successful in your projects. And I wish you all the best with your projects. Let me know in the comments what you think of what I've said. And if you like this video, do hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to help the channel grow. Thank you so much.